Scrunchies are such an easy make and make a great gift. I'm Charlotte from Flower Child and I'm going to show you how. So you're going to need some fabric, hat elastic, pins, bodkin, needle and thread, scissors. You can use a rotary cutter with a cutting mat and you'll need an iron. I've cut my fabric 26 inches by 5 inches and my hat elastic as 9 inches. Putting right sides to right sides, I'm joining the shorter ends of the strip of fabric using 1/4 inch seam allowance. When you start off, just go back a couple to secure the threads. Sew 1/4 inch seam allowance and then secure it at the end by going back a few and then breaking the thread. Now that you've joined your strip, you'll have a seam. Just press that to one side with your fingers and then centralise it on the bottom. Fold over the top side into quarters. You're just trying to get this fabric out of the way and then bring the seams together and secure with a pin. You're going to be sewing with the raw edges together, making sure the rest of the fabric is tucked securely inside, and you'll be able to feel it with your hands. We're going to go all the way around, leaving a gap so we can turn through. So I've put these pins here to show you the gap that we're going to leave, but I'm going to take these out, otherwise they'll just get in our way. So starting at the seam that we just made, I'm going to double back and then go round, again using 1/4 inch seam allowance. It's really important that you keep the rest of the fabric tucked inside, out of the way of the needle, so you bring raw edge to raw edge and the rest of the material is kind of stuffed inside, out of the way. I'm just doing it really slowly here just to show you, and the whole time check the rest of that fabric is tucked in. Now that you've reached the end, you can't go any further, you want to start pulling this fabric through. And it's really handy to hold the other end as well, and it slides through. And then you're going to repeat the process of tucking the fabric in and then sewing the two raw edges together. There are a number of ways to make scrunchies and I've tried them all, and this is my preferred method. So I'm just going to keep going along. I've now sped up the video because I think you've probably got the idea now. You're just bringing the raw edges, sliding through the fabric when you get to the end and making sure that everything's tucked up inside. When you get to seeing your first stitch, you want to slow down and leave yourself a gap about 2 fingers width, just enough to turn it through. Secure the end of your thread by going back a few stitches and then you can take it out of the machine. You can see there's a couple of inch gap just there. So now I am going to find that gap and turn through the scrunchie. This is the magic bit. Before I iron it, I'm just going to finger press around just because it makes it a bit easier. I'm going to make sure the seam is nice and flat at the top, nothing is folding in, and then use a hot iron and press all the way around. Some fabrics might not need ironing if you're using satins or things like that, but with this cotton Tana Lawn, it definitely benefits from an iron. Then grab your hat elastic and a bodkin, make sure that's nice and secure, find the hole, and then thread through your elastic. I like to secure the end of the elastic with one of these little sewing clips. They're really handy. You could use a pin if you wanted to, you just don't want to lose that end. keep going, thread your bodkin round and then bring it out through the opening. You want to join the ends of your elastic together, and I'm using a knot here where I'm putting them together and then looping them round. I don't want the knot too close to the end so it pops off, but I also want to make sure that there's enough room in the elastic to go over somebody's wrist comfortably. So I've given it a little tug and made sure that knot is super tight. Then you can give your scrunchie a tug and the knot will disappear inside, and giving it a little tug will allow the fabric to sort of evenly distribute around the elastic. I'm just locating the hole with these pins, and then I'm going to hand sew using a needle and thread, but you can of course use a sewing machine and just zip around the edge there with an edge stitch and close it that way. But I prefer to hand sew because I think it gives it a nice finish. So I'm just securing the thread with a knot. And then my first stitch, I'll actually be going backwards one just to secure the thread, and then I'll carry on working a slip stitch. Because Tana Lawn's quite thin, it's very easy to poke the needle out and end up with the stitches visible. So just check both sides of your work as you get going, just so that you can get the angle of the needle right. Once you get to the end, I just stitch back through the loop, and then I'll take another stitch like that in the same place just to secure it. I then put the needle in where I just came out, and I'm going to sink that thread inside the scrunchie. I keep the thread taut, give it a little snip, and then the end will be tidy and inside. Arrange your scrunchie, give it a pull, untwist it, and it's done. Now that you've made this one, you can make up many more in all of your favourite fabrics to give as gifts to friends and family. I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial and it's inspired you to get creative. Don't forget to hit subscribe and come back for some more tutorials.